Hello, this is Dan Marr from Hamlin Kerrigan in Nashua, New Hampshire, and today I'm going to be talking about the reason why smaller service companies, a one-person service company, should still consider creating a limited liability company. You can do a corporation or limited liability company, but limited liability companies in New Hampshire are quite easy to form as our corporation, but you don't have an annual you don't have to have an annual meeting. You don't have to do a lot of the formalities that you have to do for a corporation. So if you have a small company and you're signing some contracts, if you're signing those contracts after you created a limited liability company and you keep that limited liability company up to date with filing annual reports, then you will be protecting yourself, because if you sign as, say, Acme LLC, you create a better name than that, and you sign as John Smith, member, Acme LLC, when you sign a contract like that, if for some reason you're not able to fulfill that contract, I know you would be acting in good faith, but some reason you're not able to do that, they generally can only get the person that you breached a contract with, or the company you breached a contract with, can generally only come after the LLC unless you've signed a personal guarantee on that. So the banks, obviously, they're going to require you to sign personal guarantees, but certain trade creditors and things that you deal with, you don't have to do that. So if you're in a situation like that, you can have that you can avoid personal liability for that, as long as you're keeping the company legitimate. You're telling everyone that it's a company, you're entering into the contracts that way, and you're not using the bank account as your own personal account. You're not taking money out when you want to go on vacations, as like you're actually keeping sufficient money in there to operate the business, and you pull out money that is a reasonable amount for your compensation for your services. If you do all that stuff in general, you're going to be able to protect yourself for liability. So it makes a lot of sense to do that for a limited liability company. And also, if for some reason you have a real estate that you own up, also I strongly recommend a limited liability company. I like those instead of realty trust can be done, but limited liability companies for holding the real estate. So you actually pay rent to yourself as an operating entity, and you pay it to yourself. It's better for taxes. Your accountants can explain that, and it's a good system to have. But limited liability companies are good for that purpose, for the legal purpose. But then there's another one that's another consideration. Creating an LLC makes you look more effective. You're more of an entity, more of a authoritative when you're actually creating an LLC. You look more authentic in that situation. So that helps itself. So it looks like you're actually thinking about those things. But then also, for a lot of companies, and certainly my company that I'm dealing with, I prefer, when we're dealing with a company that's providing some services for my clients, I prefer them to be a limited liability company or a corporation, because it's called corporate to corporate, and LLC to LLC is the same, or LLC to corporate, doesn't matter, but two legal entities. The reason for that is there's a whole bunch of employment laws out there for Department of Employment Security for unemployment. There's the Workers' Compensation and the Wage Act under the New Hampshire Department of Labor. There's the IRS rules. But if you're truly in a separate corporation or a separate legal entity, you can 1099 those people for the services they provide, and it's much more likely that the state and federal government agencies, when that company has its own LLC, and particularly if it has its own website and it's doing a whole bunch of business for service for other entities, that they're actually going to treat them as a separate independent contractor, because there's a risk as a company, if I'm hiring somebody for providing services for a company, that they might be considered part-time employees. There was a situation where there was actually a case in New Hampshire where somebody was hiring regularly, I think one night a week, to be a DJ at a local restaurant I think it was in a hotel. And in that situation, there was a finding that they were an employee, a part-time employee, that individual, while they were dealing with it. You really don't have that as much of a risk when you create an LLC. There's a possibility there, but it's less likely. So that might be an issue. So in other words, when you're creating an LLC, you might be more attractive than your competitor that's just a regular person for you being hired. And any edge you can get helps. So I strongly recommend LLCs for that. When you're a single person LLC, it's very easy to create in the certificate of formation with the Secretary of State's office. You have to also file a federal identification number, but you can do a pass-through of all your expenses and revenue right to yourself. So that's helpful for federal tax purposes. So consider that. We do them for transactionally for one person, and if you have more than one person, we do what's called also an operating agreement, which is similar to a shareholder agreement for corporations, but we can talk to you about that. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I've been doing this for 35 years. If you have any questions in regards to this, you can contact me at 603-883-5501, Dan Marr at 603-883-5501, or you can check out our website, which has a lot of useful information, hamker.com. That's hamker.com. I look forward to the opportunity to work with you if the opportunity arises. Thank you.